Today, let's talk about something we've all experienced or thought about at some point in our lives: love. And not just any love, but whole love. It's easy to fall into the trap of loving half-heartedly, whether that's because we're afraid of being alone, scared of rejection, or simply because we think this is the best we deserve. But here's the truth I want you to hear today: you deserve more. You deserve to love deeply and be loved deeply. Anything less than that is not truly love, it's a shadow of what could be. Vulnerability and wholehearted love. The heart of wholehearted love is vulnerability. And I know vulnerability is a scary word for a lot of us. It feels like exposing ourselves to the possibility of hurt, of rejection, of failure. But here's the thing: vulnerability is the birthplace of love. It's where connection happens. It's where trust is built. You cannot love fully if you're only willing to show part of who you are. If you're holding back parts of yourself, your true self, because you think it's safer or more acceptable, then you're not experiencing real love. And I want you to know, you don't have to settle for half love. You can show up as your whole self, and you deserve to be with someone who does the same. The dangers of half love. The problem with half love is that it doesn't allow space for true connection. It often feels like you're walking on eggshells, unsure of where you stand. You might find yourself asking questions like, do they really love me? Am I good enough? Are they fully invested in me? When we settle for someone who is only half present, we allow ourselves to become invisible. We lose sight of our worth. Half love is not love, it's a performance, a series of actions that are driven by fear and uncertainty. It's not enough. You are worthy of someone who shows up for you, as whole and vulnerable as you are. The power of boundaries. Now, let's talk about boundaries. A word that is often misunderstood, but so crucial in protecting your emotional well-being. Setting boundaries is not about shutting people out, it's about making sure you don't let in people who are not fully capable or willing to give you the love you deserve. Boundaries are a form of self-respect. They are a way of saying, I am worthy of being treated with care, dignity, and love. Half-lovers will often test your boundaries, pull you in and push you out. But by honoring yourself, by setting clear boundaries, you protect your heart and soul from being taken advantage of. The journey of whole love. So, how do we get there? How do we go from living in a world of half love to embracing full, wholehearted connection? It starts with understanding that love is a journey. It's not instant, it doesn't come in the form of quick fixes or immediate gratification. True love takes time. It takes effort. It takes learning to trust and to lean into discomfort. But the good news is that this journey is worth it. Whole love is about two people coming together, both fully present, both equally vulnerable, both equally committed to one another's growth. And here's the thing: it's not about finding perfection. It's not about finding someone who never makes mistakes. It's about finding someone who is willing to show up, who is willing to learn and grow with you, and who is willing to love you in a way that is full, authentic, and real. So, I leave you with this: don't settle for half love. Don't stay in relationships where you are not seen or valued. You are worthy of a love that is whole, authentic, and brave. And when you step into that space, you'll find that your relationships, your sense of self-worth, and your joy will grow beyond what you could have imagined. You deserve to be loved fully, as your true self. And that's where the magic happens. Vulnerability is not weakness, it is, in fact, our greatest measure of courage. When we talk about love, real, deep, transformative love, we are talking about something that cannot exist without vulnerability. Love without vulnerability isn't love at all, it's a transaction, a shallow exchange built on conditions and fear. If we are to experience wholehearted love, we have to be willing to be seen, really seen, with all our imperfections, fears, hopes, and dreams laid bare. When we guard ourselves against vulnerability, when we put up emotional walls or only show the parts of ourselves we think will be accepted, we are not loving wholeheartedly. We are negotiating connection instead of truly connecting. We are presenting curated versions of ourselves that are palatable and safe, but not true. And in doing so, we block the possibility of real intimacy. Real love asks us to step into the uncertainty of being known. It invites us to show up without guarantees. It demands that we trust another person with the tender, often messy reality of who we are. Vulnerability, in this sense, is the birthplace of connection, trust, and authenticity. Without it, relationships become hollow. Wholehearted love is about embracing our own worthiness first. It's understanding that we are enough as we are, and because we are enough, we are worthy of giving and receiving love without conditions. When we love from a place of worthiness, we don't look to another person to fill our gaps or fix our flaws. We don't love to prove something or to earn approval. We love because we choose to, freely and courageously, from a place of abundance rather than fear. And this kind of love is magnetic. It draws in people who are also willing to love in a full, vulnerable, and courageous way. But vulnerability is not just about openness, it's also about risk. To be vulnerable is to accept that we might be hurt. It is to acknowledge that offering our hearts to another does not come with a guarantee that they will handle it perfectly. There is always a risk that we will be misunderstood, rejected, or even abandoned. That fear is real and valid. However, if we avoid vulnerability in an attempt to protect ourselves from hurt, we also shut ourselves off from the possibility of deep joy, connection, and belonging. Emotional safety does not come from avoidance, it comes from choosing wisely who we entrust with our hearts and from being courageous enough to show up even when it's hard. One of the myths we often believe is that if we are perfect, if we say the right things, do the right things, and appear polished and unbreakable, then we will be lovable. But perfection is a shield that keeps us isolated. It keeps real connection at arm's length. People cannot connect with perfection, they connect with realness. They connect with your laughter, your mistakes, your fears, your dreams. They connect with your heart, not your highlight reel. So, if we are serious about experiencing wholehearted love, we must lay down the armor of perfection and step into the beautiful, messy, and imperfect arena of real life. Wholehearted love also means loving others with compassion and grace. Just as we bring our whole, imperfect selves to a relationship, we must also make space for others to do the same. It's easy to love someone when they are meeting all our expectations, when they are doing all the right things. But real love shows up even when things get difficult. Real love says, I see your flaws, I see your struggles, and I choose you anyway. It doesn't mean tolerating toxic behavior or sacrificing our own well-being, it means recognizing that imperfection is part of the human experience and that real intimacy is built not on idealized versions of each other but on mutual acceptance and understanding. Vulnerability in love also teaches us resilience. When we open ourselves up and face hurt or disappointment, we learn that we are capable of surviving those experiences. We learn that heartbreak, while painful, is not the end of the story. It is a chapter, not the whole book. And each time we risk being vulnerable, we strengthen our ability to live and love fully. We become more compassionate, more empathetic, more grounded. We begin to understand that love is not about avoiding pain, it's about having the courage to feel deeply, to engage fully, and to grow through every experience. In a culture that often values stoicism, independence, and self-sufficiency above all else, choosing vulnerability can feel countercultural. It can feel like standing in a storm without an umbrella. But it is in that very exposure, in that willingness to be seen and to see others, that the most profound connections are born. It is there that we find the love that nourishes us, strengthens us, and calls us to be our truest selves. When we embrace vulnerability, we set a new standard for our relationships. We are no longer satisfied with surface-level interactions or half-hearted connections. We seek relationships where we can show up fully and be met with openness, curiosity, and commitment. We create a culture of courage and authenticity, not just within our romantic relationships but within our friendships, our families, and our communities. Ultimately, vulnerability and wholehearted love call us to trust in ourselves, trust in others, and trust in the process of love itself. It is a daring, brave act to choose love when fear and cynicism would be easier. But it is also the most rewarding. Because when we love from a place of vulnerability, we experience love that is real, resilient, and deeply transformative. We step into a space where we are no longer performing for acceptance but living in the profound truth that we are already enough, and therefore fully worthy of love. Would you also like a second version that's even more storytelling based, like TED Talk? Microphone. Half love is a silent thief. It steals from us not all at once, but little by little, in quiet moments when we compromise, when we shrink ourselves, when we accept being partially seen instead of fully loved. Half love is dangerous because it teaches us to settle for less than we are worth. It tells us to be grateful for crumbs when we deserve a feast. It conditions us to believe that something incomplete, something uncertain, is better than nothing at all. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, it erodes our sense of self-worth. The danger of half-love is that it is so easy to rationalize. It often shows up wearing the disguise of potential. We tell ourselves, maybe they'll change, or, maybe if I just love them a little harder, a little better, they will finally love me the way I need. We cling to possibilities instead of realities. We build our emotional homes on shaky foundations, hoping that somehow they will become sturdy with time. But love that is conditional, inconsistent, or absent at critical moments cannot sustain the deep emotional connection we crave. It leaves us feeling unseen, unheard, and ultimately unloved, even when we are technically in a relationship. One of the most insidious things about half-love is the self-doubt it breeds. When someone loves us only halfway, we often internalize the idea that we are somehow unworthy of full love. We start to question our value. We wonder if we are asking for too much when, in truth, we are asking for something fundamental, to be loved completely, without reservation or conditions. Half-love convinces us that our needs are excessive, that our desires are unreasonable, that we should be content with fragments of affection instead of the wholehearted, soul-deep love we deserve. Half-love also keeps us stuck in cycles of anxiety and longing. It pulls us into a state of emotional limbo, where we are never fully secure but never fully abandoned. We are given just enough attention, just enough affection, to keep us hoping, but not enough to feel truly cherished. This inconsistency creates a powerful emotional confusion. We find ourselves oscillating between hope and despair, believing that if we could just do something differently, be more patient, be less needy, be more perfect, then we would finally be loved fully. But the truth is, real love does not require us to contort ourselves into unrecognizable shapes. Real love meets us where we are and loves us as we are. Another danger of half-love is that it distracts us from the love we could be experiencing both from others and from ourselves. When we are caught in the trap of half-love, we are often so focused on winning over the person who cannot or will not love us fully that we miss the opportunities for connection with those who would. We miss the chance to build relationships based on mutual respect, trust, and vulnerability. We invest so much emotional energy into trying to fix or prove something that we leave little space for the kind of love that is generous, open, and whole. Moreover, half-love normalizes emotional inconsistency. It teaches us to expect less, to brace for disappointment, to accept lukewarm affection as the best we can hope for. Over time, this can lead to a numbing of our emotional needs. We stop asking for what we truly want. We stop believing that we deserve it. We become so accustomed to emotional starvation that we forget what it feels like to be emotionally nourished. And this not only affects our romantic relationships but spills over into how we engage with friends, family, and even our own dreams. What makes half-love so dangerous is that it often masquerades as better than loneliness. The fear of being alone can be so overwhelming that we convince ourselves that a half-hearted relationship is better than no relationship at all. But loneliness within a relationship is far more devastating than loneliness on your own. When you are alone, you have the space to heal, to reconnect with yourself, to build a life that feels rich and meaningful. But when you are with someone who only loves you halfway, the loneliness you feel is compounded by the sense of rejection and inadequacy. It becomes a loneliness of being unseen in the presence of another. That kind of loneliness cuts deeper than solitude ever could. Choosing to stay in half-love often stems from a place of fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear that we will never find anything better. But fear is a terrible compass for love. Fear leads us to cling to relationships that diminish us instead of lift us up. It tells us that scarcity is the truth of love, when in reality, true love is abundant, generous, and expansive. Fear says, take what you can get. Courage says, wait for what you deserve. The antidote to the dangers of half-love is recognizing our inherent worthiness. It's about understanding, deep down, that being loved fully is not a privilege reserved for a select few, it is a fundamental human need and right. It is about trusting that we are enough exactly as we are, without needing to earn or chase love. It is about believing that it is better to stand in the fullness of our own presence than to shrink ourselves for the sake of companionship. Walking away from half-love is not an easy thing. It requires strength. It demands a willingness to endure discomfort and uncertainty. But it is also one of the most powerful acts of self-respect we can undertake. When we refuse to accept half-love, we send a message to ourselves and to the world that we know our value, that we will not barter our hearts for half measures. And in doing so, we open ourselves up to the possibility of love that is complete, courageous, and truly transformative. Because you deserve more than almost. You deserve more than sometimes. You deserve the kind of love that shows up fully, stays fully, and loves you fully without hesitation, without condition, without half measures. Would you also like me to expand the next keynote, the power of boundaries, the same way? Glowing star boundaries are not walls. They are not about shutting people out or building fortresses around our hearts. Instead, boundaries are the way we teach others how to treat us. They are the lines we draw to protect our energy, our emotional health, and our sense of self-worth. Setting boundaries is an essential act of self-respect and an act of love not just for ourselves, but for the people in our lives as well. Without boundaries, relationships easily fall into patterns of imbalance, resentment, and misunderstanding. Without boundaries, we lose ourselves trying to please, trying to fit, trying to be enough for someone else's approval. The first and most important thing to understand about boundaries is that they are not about controlling other people, they are about taking responsibility for ourselves. We cannot control how others behave, but we can control how we respond. We can control what we allow into our lives and what we keep out. A healthy boundary says, "This is what is okay for me, and this is what is not okay for me." It is a clear and compassionate communication of our needs and limits, and it is fundamental to any loving, respectful relationship. Many people struggle with setting boundaries because they associate it with conflict or rejection. We worry that if we set a boundary, we will lose the relationship. We fear that the other person will see us as selfish, difficult, or demanding. But in reality, boundaries are what allow relationships to be sustainable. Without them, resentment builds up like a slow poison. We say yes when we want to say no. We give more than we have to give. We tolerate behaviors that hurt us. And eventually, the relationship becomes weighed down by unspoken frustrations and unmet needs. Boundaries are not the end of connection, they are the foundation for connection that is healthy, honest, and enduring. Setting boundaries requires clarity. It demands that we know ourselves well enough to understand what we need to feel safe, respected, and valued. This clarity comes from tuning into our emotions, listening to the signals our bodies and hearts send us when something feels wrong or draining. When we ignore these signals, we betray ourselves. But when we honor them, we are standing in our truth. We are saying to ourselves, "My needs matter. My feelings matter. My well-being matters." And when we live from that place of self-respect, we attract relationships that reflect and reinforce that truth. One of the hardest parts of setting boundaries is tolerating the discomfort that often follows. Sometimes, people will not like our boundaries. Sometimes, they will push back, guilt us, or try to manipulate us into abandoning them. This is especially true when a relationship has been built on the expectation that we will always bend, always accommodate, always put the other person's needs before our own. When we change the rules, it threatens the status quo. It challenges the dynamics that have been in place, sometimes for years. But holding firm to our boundaries, even when it's uncomfortable, is how we honor the growth we are committed to. Boundaries are also a form of honesty. They allow us to be authentic in our relationships instead of pretending to be okay with things that hurt us or drain us. They create a space where true intimacy can develop, where we can show up as our real selves, and invite others to do the same. Without boundaries, we are not really being ourselves, we are performing. We are masking our true feelings to keep the peace or to maintain the illusion of harmony. But real connection doesn't grow in the soil of performance. It grows in the light of honesty, vulnerability, and mutual respect. The power of boundaries extends beyond just protecting us from harm, it also creates space for love to flourish. When we know that we can set a boundary and still be loved, we experience a deeper level of trust. When we know that we can say no and the relationship will not fall apart, we feel safer, more seen, and more valued. Boundaries teach us and the people around us that love does not mean losing ourselves. It does not mean abandoning our own needs in service of someone else's comfort. Love honors individuality. Love respects limits. Love thrives when both people feel free to be fully themselves. Sometimes, setting boundaries means having hard conversations. It means saying things like, I am not comfortable with that, or I need some time to think about this, or this behavior is not okay with me. It means risking disappointment or disagreement. But it also means creating a life that is aligned with our values and our truth. It means living with integrity rather than resentment. And it means cultivating relationships that are based on mutual care and respect, not on fear or obligation. Boundaries are not a one-time thing, they are an ongoing practice. As we grow and evolve, our needs and limits may change. Healthy relationships can adjust and adapt to these changes. People who truly love us will not just tolerate our boundaries, they will honor them. They will see our willingness to advocate for ourselves as a sign of strength, not a threat. And in turn, they will feel safer setting their own boundaries, creating a relationship dynamic that is rooted in honesty and mutual empowerment. In a world that often praises self-sacrifice and people-pleasing, choosing to set boundaries can feel radical. It can feel lonely at times, especially when people who benefited from our lack of boundaries react negatively. But ultimately, boundaries are the key to preserving our energy, our joy, and our sense of self. They are how we teach others to love us. They are how we love ourselves enough to walk away from anything that asks us to be less than who we are. When we set boundaries, we are not pushing people away, we are inviting in the kind of love and respect that allows everyone to thrive. We are saying, I am worthy of being treated with kindness and care. And when we believe that deeply enough to act on it, we create lives and relationships that are not only healthier but infinitely more fulfilling. Would you like me to now also expand the final keynote, the journey of whole love, the same way for you? Glowing star.